Okay, so for segment 2 today, I was asked to compare the Heroes Unlimited GM's Guide to the Rift's Game Master Guide. They are both Palladium. They both came out around the same time. The Heroes Unlimited was 1999. Rifts was 2001. But there are some big differences between the two, right? Because Rifts is MDC. No, much, much, much beyond that. So let us take a look at these two. And I don't have my... of course, I didn't prepare. There we go. I am prepared. So we're going to dive into these... I don't need to show the book yet. Good. We are going to dive into these two cornerstone books. That's my term. For Palladium. The Heroes Unlimited Game Master's Guide and the Rift's Game Master Guide. But first, I need you to mark your calendar. Because next week, June 22nd, Kevin Simbita and Sean Owen Robertson are going to be here to talk about Rift's Promise of Power Reforged. That goes live on the 17th, which I think is Tuesday, and they're going to be here on the 22nd. We're actually this time going to see the full-on backer kit crowdfunder and everything they are doing with Rift's Promise of Power Reforged. We're also going to take a look at the Savage Phase World Kickstarter. Kind of maybe. I don't know when that one exactly goes live, so if it isn't live yet, we're just going to talk about what that is, what that's about.
Why are we talking about that?
Because it's a Palladium world.
Is it from the Palladium company?
No, but Kevin is really supporting. That's why Kevin wanted me to start looking at some Phase World stuff. I now understand why he said that. So, and hey, you know what? We'll support him in this one, and then if there's time, which there should be,
you can. I'll just be quiet.
Okay, is how to run campaigns with 20 or more players. Now, I just picked a number 20. It's kind of well known that Kevin's run a game with 26 people, and in one of these Game Master guides, he even said 32. That's crazy. That's insanity. I don't ever want to be part of that, but some of you guys want to know about that, so we will we'll talk about that as well. So we really hope to see you there on the 22nd next week at 1 p.m. Central Time. With that, let's get back to our Palladium stuff. Now, right off the bat, I need to tell you that before I looked at these books, I already had a favorite. I've said it on live streams before. Before diving into this, I was always like, the Heroes Unlimited Game Master Guide is so much better than the Rift's Game Master Guide. I don't even know why I'd even buy the Rift's Game Master Guide. It wasn't even a little better. It was a lot better. Now, in 100% honesty, I have not read or had not read them page for page and saw everything that was in there. That was kind of my gut feeling based on paging through them. You get what I'm saying, right? So my question for you is, do you think my belief was reinforced? Do you think that I realized that maybe I rushed to judgment on this and they're both pretty darn good? Or do you think that I've been awakened and found that the Rift's Game Master Guide is better? What are your thoughts before we even get started? Go ahead and pause the video if you're watching some video later and let me know what you think. And then we'll get to the end and find out if you were right. Don't delete your comment. I want to know when you were right or wrong. All right, let me show... that's the Rifts one. Let me go back to the... I said 11. Go to there. Let's share the screen. That's not sharing the screen. Let's share the screen. And we're going to do it so I can swap between the two. Share. And we will F11. We're going to start off with the Heroes Unlimited book. So this book was originally planned to be a collection of adventures that somehow grew into something much bigger. A pretty good GM resource and arguably one of the best books in all of the Palladium arsenal. I mean that. Even in 2025. This book was written in 1999. It's 26 years old as of this video. I would say it is still relevant, useful, and, for lack of a better term, an inspiring tool for any superhero campaign, Palladium or otherwise. I'll even go so far as to say any campaign. There are a lot of good tidbits in here for running that you could use for a D&D game, for your Marvel superheroes game, for your Stars Without Number game. There's just a lot of good GM advice in this one. Let's go to page 18. Boom. All right, so we're going to take a look. We're not going to read stuff out of the book, don't worry. I just want to show you some of the pages so you can see what's in here. After opening introductions, the book starts off with a lengthy Q&A that answers everything from 3 different kinds of super strength to robots with human psyches, yeah, that's a thing apparently, to a character suffering from weight manipulation, and many, many more questions. A bunch of pages. I forget how many pages. I should have wrote that down. I think it's like 10 pages of questions. This is followed by some errata and a treatise on house rules that you can see on the screen right there. And I highly suggest the section of trying new ideas. Isn't that on this page? No, it's on this page down here. Trying new ideas. Look, if all the times you guys have watched our videos and talking Palladium books, if you're not convinced yet that Palladium is meant to be used as a framework, not a legal codex, I don't know what to tell you. But if you read this house rule section, you will grasp that in spades. On page 20 here, we got are some pages on villains and vigilantes characters, which in my opinion become a wonderful lead-in to the Villains Unlimited book. Now, I only have the first edition Villains Unlimited book, but I've had people tell me that the second edition Villains Unlimited book is even expanded more so than what the first edition one was. I just haven't had a need to get the second edition one, so I never got it. There are some quick roll tables for various villains, and a reminder of how law enforcement and the public see these types of characters, whether they are player characters or non-player characters. Law enforcement and even the public aren't always happy with the vigilante, even if the vigilante's kind of doing what the public wants.
Batman-esque. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Or, I mean, Punisher, right?
Sure.
Following this are about 20 pages of role-playing in character. The core tenets of this section, and Bear, the Gen X GM, is going to love this one, is the idea that you are meant to play heroic characters. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot in here about villains and vigilantes, but the idea, and he gets into alignments and so forth, is about playing heroic characters, and it also includes like what it means to have a job, to work for local law enforcement or the government, to have a secret identity, and to just maintain that mundane job in here. Lots of good advice. You know, on top of your head, you may be like, well, I can do that. Sure, but there's still a lot of good advice in here on that. Go into the next section here. Oh, look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Oh, look at that. It's a skill list with all the percentages right there.
Wow.
We need more of this, especially when it comes to OCCs.
I know, it should be listed in every OCC, so you don't have to look through the entire skill list of the book just to get your initial ratings.
Yeah. That's something that I do hope they change going forward. I think, don't quote me, but I think that's done in the TMNT book. Now, to be fair, TMNT does not use OCCs, but I still think that it is there if I remember correctly. All right, moving on. We have new Rampage rules. What is Rampage? For MMORPG players, think of it as when you've been fighting the big boss at the end for too long and he just frenzies. Is it timer based? No, but that's the idea. Like, he's really angry now. When somebody hulks out, so to speak. That's what. They're
no longer concerned with defending themselves. They're just concerned with squishing your skull.
That is true. The rules actually say that. I'm not diving into the rules with this, but Heathen Dog's exactly right. Yeah. And then because of Rampage, this leads to new brawling rules, mostly focused around various types of power attacks. Yeah, there are a whole ton of power attacks I'd never heard of before, like, I don't know, power lift and throw, power body block and slam, improvised power club. What was that? Captain Caveman! and many, many more as well. And to be clear, these combat maneuvers can be used by any character, whether the character is rampaging or not. They're just new rules that are added on into the power attack business. All right, look at this. Creating and running adventures. So there's 20 pages dedicated to creating and running adventures. On page 60, there is a really great section called It's About the Story, Not Control. Personally, I would reword that title to It's About the Emerging Story, Not Control, but that's because I believe in like the modern world now, the word story is a little bit different meaning than maybe the way we used it back in the early 2000s. It's got some more negative connotation to it, but it's the same different. The idea is that yes, the dice are important, but so is emotive characters, so is your imagination, so is kind of the rule of cool when not taken to excesses. Things have to kind of make sense. But it dives into inspirations, campaign settings, even fantasy heroes for Palladium fantasy, and geopolitical hotspots, which the GM can get ideas. That doesn't look right. Oh, yeah, it is. These half-page things. All right. Over the next 100 pages are 10 different adventures that make up the bulk of this Game Master Guide. These adventures include magic, robots, mutants, combat, investigation, aliens, and a whole ton more. I did not read through all of the adventures here. Sorry. I did look over each of them, skimmed most of them, but if there's an idea you have, basically, if it exists in the Heroes Unlimited 2nd edition book, you've got an adventure for it here. At least one of these adventures will be perfect for your campaign, and all 10 of them can find a place in anyone's campaign. You can use them as side quests, jumping off points for a campaign, one-shot introductions, or really whatever you need at the time. Book then includes an expanded spell list. Here, actually, we'll go up here. This is the higher level stuff, but it included some legendary spells, which I'd never heard of before. Apparently, the Heroes Unlimited 2nd edition book was already too big, so some spells got left out. And they're put in here. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I think that's more of a player's companion concept. You're going to hear me say way more about that in the Rift side of this video. But that seems like more of a player's companion thing than a Game Master Guide. With that said, I don't find it egregious because this book is really, really, really focused on the Game Master.
Plus, it looks like a lot of these spells are something that the Game Master is going to want to control whether they exist or when they pop up in the story.
Maybe. I mean, a lot of these say HE2, some say new. I mean, detect poison. I don't know. I think that should be for everybody. But with that said, that's just one out of this list. You know, your mileage may vary. I get it. He couldn't fit them all in there. It's a few extras. Okay. It's a pet peeve of mine, and you're going to hear way more about this in the next segment. It's a pet peeve of mine when players have to get their hands on the Game Master Guide or Dungeon Master Guide. That seems anathema to me. I don't want my players to have another book or to even want to look at that other book. That's my take on it. But here in this one, it's minimal. I'll forgive it as much as I can because, you know, it doesn't take up the bulk of the book. I also wish, apparently there's a blurb in here that says that Nightbane Through the Glass Darkly includes rules for creating new spells. This book mentions that. Maybe you could have put them in this book.
That would have been cool.
Yeah. Because that's Game Master type stuff. All right, finishing up the book are 25 pages of new weapons, equipment, and vehicles, as well as some updated or optional modern weapon rules, including penetration and some of the stuff that some of us really love from the Modern Compendium Weapons book.
Yeah, is that penetration and bleeding rules or just penetration?
Scroll down. I don't remember seeing the bleeding, but I'm not going to say it's not there. Optional rules for modern weapons, modern firearms, penetration values, tissue damage ratings. It's got that. See tissue damage ratings, pistol cartridges, rifle cartridges. I'm not seeing bleeding here yet because I kind of I didn't read the equipment sections of either of the books. Didn't care. So, and I didn't remember seeing it there, but I wanted to make sure. It goes, like I said, you can see all this equipment here: energy weapons, vehicles, and so on and so forth. So there you go. That's one half of this. So from my perspective, there's something for everyone in this book. Not just for Palladium stuff, but even non-Palladium game masters. Honestly, you can get a bunch out of this book. Doesn't have to be a superhero game either. Sure, it focuses on that. So the vast majority of the Q&A questions and, you know, Rampage and so on and so forth are dealing with that. But Kevin, Wayne, and other authors offer a ton of insight for adventure ideas, for how to handle weird events at your table and so forth that really spans across various possible games and genres. I would say the first half of the book is the most important. And it's for lack of a better term, the raison d'être for the a game master guide of any sort. I'd say the entire thing is useful, but that's going to be that's going to be the main portion of it. I mean, you want to use it for systems failure, Nightbane, Beyond the Supernatural, even after the bomb? Yes, absolutely, you can. So let me know in the comments what you believe is the biggest selling point, the best part of the Heroes Unlimited GM guide. And before we go into the Rift side of it, Heathen Dog, go ahead and let's see some of the comments that we had for the Heroes Unlimited side.
I would love to, but a lot of this stuff was either agreeing with you or think spell creation rules are about 5 pages in that book. So when trying to control the amounts, it makes sense. Talking about the Nightbane spell creation thing. Making spells have always kind of been hidden along with multi-classing. Yes, it really is up to the GM to allow or disallow super powerful spells. Yeah, I mean, one of those spells was 5,000 PPE. I mean, that cannot be just, oh, it just costs a lot. No, that's got to be disastrous.
I can understand it for the legendary spells. I have zero issues with having that in here. And like I said, I only quibble because it's not going to be fair for me not to mention it for this book when you're going to hear me mention that. Well, my bias is already showing when I talk about the Rifts Game Master Guide. Okay, so I want to make sure that I'm being fair in this and not glossing over stuff like that. But I really do believe this is, some people say the first edition Dungeons & Dragons is the best Dungeon Master Guide ever written. I can't necessarily argue with that, depending on your style of play, especially if you like charts and tables and maps and yeah, that's great. I think when it comes to a more creative type game, I haven't read a better one than this. Or I don't do superhero games. You would think off the cuff, I'd be like, whatever. No, this book is amazing. So, and remember, it's 26 years old.
Yeah. And so you're saying this is something that if you are going to run, especially a Heroes Unlimited game, you're the game master, getting this book would not be a bad idea.
Oh, it would be a great idea. And I would say for any SDC game, this book is need is not the right word. You really, really, really want this. And I'll even go so far as to say for Rifts, for Robotech, for Splicers, whatever the other MDC games are, it's absolutely helpful. All right, let's swap on over here to our Rifts Game Master Guide now. So there's the Rifts book. This one came out in 2001, 4 years before Rift's Ultimate Edition. And that's going to be something I reiterate a bunch of times. Just get over it. I have to do it to make certain points. So that stipulation is important to note because this Game Master Guide is meant to be a Game Master Guide to the 1990 versions of Rifts more than the 2005 version of Rifts. So keeping that context in mind, the Rifts Game Master Guide spends a lot of time filling in some of the much needed 1990 gaps. Basically, the game had expanded quite a bit over 11 years, and this book shows it off. But here's the thing. 2025, this book shows its age, and it's 2 years newer than the Heroes Unlimited one. So let's show off what's in here. There's some very good about this book, and we're going to start off with some of the very good. We got some designer notes. These are always good. Right, so it starts with Kevin's designer notes, which takes us on a little trip into his mind when it comes to running games, group size, adventure design, and campaign ideas. What are we talking about with Kevin next week? Group size? There's some notes about that in here. He follows this with a discussion of the various mechanics, such as experience points, including the whys and hows of how he uses them. It's actually a really good section. Honestly, this information is useful for any Palladium game and tackles XP awards, alignments, game balance, and a bunch more. Because I see this argument a lot. We'll see if Heathen Dog agrees with me. I especially like the part about skill use and when does the use of a skill count towards character experience?
Oh, yes. Yep. There are a lot of players out there, sorry, who try, I'm gonna tie my shoes, I'm gonna roll this skill. I did it. No.
So Kevin's answer is, I have a different take, not different take. I have a different way of saying this, but I think Kevin and I agree. The simple answer is when it's used in a clever manner or when it's used at a critical moment. My terminology is I say when it's used in a meaningful way. I think we're saying the same thing.
Yes. Just like you would not, I mean, I would hope that your game master would not make you roll your pilot skill to land a plane with no crosswind, beautiful sunny day, dry tarmac, your aircraft is in perfect working order. That is exactly the same as trying to make someone roll drive skill to make it to work on a random day. It's ridiculous. It has no bearing or meaning to the story. The roll shouldn't have happened. So if your roll has no bearing or meaning to the story, then it doesn't count for XP gain.
Exactly. And here we have attributes beyond 30 and some updated combat terms. By the way, the Heroes Unlimited one had the same thing, but it focused on super strength. This focuses more on the MDC side, right? Mm-hmm. But all of this, I verified this. I didn't do this for everything, but I did for this one. This is updated in Rift's Ultimate Edition, so let's move on. We don't need it. I feel like I'm on the wrong page. Oh, this is Q&A. There's a Q&A with some common player and game-related questions that may plague a new Palladium Game Master, as well as some common sense and optional SDC. But this is Rifts, right? SDC should still be important in your Rifts game. Yep. But it's got some common sense and optional SDC, pain, and point-blank rules. Additionally, there are updated combat rules and location-based damage side effects. Not 100% sure how much of this made it to Rift's Ultimate Edition, or if it's still a useful inclusion in this Game Master Guide. I didn't look that up. If you read nothing else, though, read all of the sections up to this point. They're excellent resources for getting a handle on the diverse craziness of Rifts. Kevin really does have a lot of good insight, some of which mimics a little bit of what he put in the Heroes Unlimited one, but quite a bit of it is different. So if I were to say there's a reason to get both books, there you go. There's one right there. Hey, what do we see here?
Oh, so a skill list with the percentages listed. That's great.
Now, knowing that this Game Master Guide came out before Rift's Ultimate Edition, this next part doesn't confuse me as much. So one of my big complaints before I went into looking at both of these books was, wow, look at that. You reprinted the skills again. That's not something that a Game Master Guide needs, okay? But understanding that this was more related to the 1990 version of the game, this makes much more sense. There's a lot more clarity here because it is a reprint, right? Mm-hmm. And all these skills made it into Rift's Ultimate Edition. Okay, I didn't look at every single one, but most, if not all, these skills made it into Rift's Ultimate Edition. So instead of complaining about how reprinting the skill list is a waste of space, I'll actually say something positive, which is it includes one thing people have been asking for in all Palladium books, and Heathendog already pointed it out. It's got the percentages right there.
It's great.
But here's the thing. This is the part that used to kind of like, whatever. If you've got Rift's Ultimate Edition, oh, look, it's the same thing as that's there.
Yeah.
But it was written before Rue.
So it is useful just to have everything in one place.
Yes, if you're playing the 1990 version of the game, this book is wonderful for you. And then moving on, we have a section on psionics. Now, once again, even if this book is prior to Rift's Ultimate Edition, this isn't something that I would expect or want in a Game Master Guide. Unless these are rare or special psionics that players wouldn't normally have access to.
Or, require some kind of training on a mountain with a guy who's got a really long beard and can float. Stuff like that. Then yeah, sure. But I'm not seeing that here. Dead and Pain.
Right.
That's in the main book. Bioregenerate, main book. I mean, already. It's crazy.
Now, to be fair, I don't know what's in 1990 versus the Rift's Ultimate Edition. If you go back and say, hey, this is expanding upon what's in the core Rifts book of the time, I can't argue this. But for my money, For me, a game master guide should be for things that the game master needs access to, not things the player needs access to.
Right. You're the game master's guide should not reprint things from the player's guide. You've already got that book. You don't need that stuff. What it should do is have explanations and advice and adjudication that a game master would need to know when players are using these powers, abilities, or skills. That's useful. Not just a stupid reprint of all the powers.
So to be fair, there are some useful concept clarifications, like how psionics works against characters in armor.
Okay.
So I thought that was useful. That's the type of stuff that I'd want to see in a game master guide. Look, you can see there's a Q&A here. What about those inside vehicles and giant robots? Cannot siphon ISP from other sources, So there's a bit of a Q&A here as well. But this part, now remember, I'm saying this jaded by Rift's Ultimate Edition, okay? But I don't need to see this here. This is not game master material for me. Now, moving on, we have a great section on the availability of weapons and ammo. And I'm going to read off just one little small paragraph or a long sentence for you that I loved. Thus, weapons and equipment from stranger isolated cultures like the Archons, or distant lands like Japan, China, Russia, Africa, Australia, and even South America are all going to be super rare and may never, in capital letters, be available to North America and Europe. Never. Redundancy in the book. So the idea there is just because it's written in a world book doesn't mean your characters are going to have access to it. Let the players cry as much as they want. No, you are not getting this item from whatever land because I don't think it's appropriate for my campaign. And it gives much more context than what I just said there, including 11 reasons why something isn't available, some of which make great adventure ideas. Hey, there's an evil corporation over there who's buying everything up. They're doing the BlackRock stuff. They're buying up all the property. Maybe you can do something about that because you have mega damage weaponry. That's just one of the possibilities. This is followed by, wait for it, 175 pages on personal weapons, equipment, armor, vehicles, robots, bionics, and more.
Wow, that's a lot.
I don't know how I feel about that. Because on one hand, I like treasure lists in Game Master Guides. However, when I think of those treasure lists, I think of things like a loot table or items that player characters don't have easy access to. I mean, this is 175 pages of, things players want. It seems like it should have been more of its own compendium, and probably is, because there's a Rift Bionics book now. You got that, the Showdown Black, what's that black market book called?
I forget. Yeah, is that all? Well, okay.
I don't know.
Consolidating several books stuff into one book, that's useful. I can see how that's useful.
But I would want that to be its own separate book, though.
Exactly. Yeah. 175 pages. That seems excessive.
I mean, here, let's scroll down. You got some guns. Here, I'll zoom out for you. Types of guns. Yep, more guns.
Yep, that's the Naruni stuff. I saw that. That stuff's pretty good.
More gun. Oh, there's a chainsaw.
Everyone needs a chainsaw.
Everybody needs a chainsaw. More guns. Oh, Zitix, or however you pronounce that, Zytikix weapons. Sure, why not?
Throw those in here too.
What is this? Oh, this is just basic equipment, like work pants.
Yeah. Nintendo Power Glove.
Nintendo Power Glove. Do I need that in a Game Master Guide? Body armor. Again, you can absolutely quibble, and I'm sure people in chat are saying this again. I know this was expanding upon the 1990 version of the book, but it's still not something that I want or expect in my Game Master Guide. Game Master Guide is for Game Master tools. This is an equipment book that probably was created by now. I can keep scrolling down if you want. A little flying. There's body armor. There's everything. Look, if you want more equipment. Oh, look, from Free Quebec. Free Quebec Glitter Boy. Sure, why not? It's in this book. Is that a Valkyrie of some sort? Anyway. You get the idea.
That's a Tengu armor thing.
Okay, I don't know what a Tengu is, but that's great. More NGR, I saw that on there. Oh, some coalition stuff. Now, this is the type of thing that I might want in my book because I want to have adversaries for the player characters. So having adversaries equipment
in your book that the players cannot get through normal channels would have to get on a black market. That would be Game Master territory to have write-ups in their Game Master book. I'm all aboard on that one.
Yep, me too. All right, moving on. You see the 175 pages there. You get the idea. Now, here's a fantastic, though probably outdated. Here, let's slide over so you guys can see it. Here, I'll go to the next page. You can see even more. There. Index of OCCs, then RCCs, and then PCCs. What are those? We don't do Palladium. Okay, that's weird that you're watching this video, but I'll put it out there. Occupational character classes, racial character classes, and psychic character classes. Actually, I like this. Now, it's probably out of date now.
Oh, most likely, yes.
but
there's a lot. Look at all those classes.
Yep.
Look at that. That's freaking nuts.
And it tells you where to find them.
Yeah.
That's a good index.
And book. Because you could not reprint them all for this book. I'm sure someone tried and realized it'd be 480 pages.
Yeah. Continuing after this, we have a monster list and what seems to be 400 to 500 experience points tables. That's the type of stuff that belongs in a Game Master guide.
Yeah.
Now you might say, like, wait a second, but that's for players. But look how easy it is for a Game Master to now look this up and say, oh, you fall under the feline kill cat. I don't know what that is, but there you go. You fall under feline kill cat. Or the monkey boy soldier. No, you don't want to be a monkey boy. So you don't want to be a monkey anything. A dragon juicer, because why not? Really? I wish I hadn't seen that.
Oh, dragon juicer is a thing. The Juicer Uprising has the dragon juicer in it. And instead of the normal medications that juicers get injected in their bodies 24/7, it's actually dragon blood.
Put on. African Rainmaker. Somebody starts singing the song now. All right, let's. But you get the idea. There's a whole ton of those. There are many pages of that. But there's also a monster list that I mentioned that I'm kind of skipping. And then we go back to some good advice from Mr. Bill Coffin here. There's a great section in this called the 7 Deadly Sins. What the hell did I say? 7 Deadly Sins of GMing. It is a fantastic read. I don't agree with it 100%, but it is still some great food for thought. It will help you be a better game master for any game. Even if you already know it, it reinforces some things. Even if you disagree with it, it still helps you to, still that food for thought to go, oh yeah, some consideration on how players might act or some things I can do for my game. I thought it was a great section. And this brings the book back into Game Master Guide material. And we finished the book with some blurbs about each of the major areas of the Rifts world and how to incorporate them into your campaigns. My bet is that most of these now have world books by this point. It's been 24 years and 1 million world books. So let's get this back to the front cover there. There we go. So you can see that. The Rifts Game Master Guide ends up feeling more like a hybrid manual, part rule clarifier, part gear dump, and part campaign aid, which is the most important part. For my money, the designer notes, the Q&A, and the running the game section are what a Game Master Guide should be. The detailed skills section, psionic powers, and equipment should be player companions, not Game Master Guide material. But what do you think? If you have Rifts Ultimate Edition, is the Rifts Game Master Guide still useful for you? Let me know in the comments.
So
we're not done yet.
Which one is worth buying and which one is only worth burning for?
Perfect segue for me to, because that's what I'm going to talk about next. So yeah, let's talk about how these books compare. The Heroes Unlimited Game Master Guide to me is laser focused. It was designed for game masters and it shows. It gives you villains, plot tools, alignment structure, campaign design ideas, random tables, actual adventures. It is a full GM kit in one book. The Rifts Game Master Guide, it does fill the missing content for its time in 2001, such as rules, skills, psionics, and equipment that hadn't made it into the core Rifts line. But once Rift's Ultimate Edition came along, and especially the world books after that, I feel it pretty much made the book obsolete. Where I just put it this way, I think the Rift's the Rift's Game Master Guide needs a Rift's Ultimate Game Master Guide now. It needs to strip out the player-facing material and focus entirely on GM use, such as campaign building, world tools, GM-only rules, and updated advice. To be fair, a lot of the advice doesn't need to be updated, but just tweak it a little bit to be more modern. What both books do well, and what I wish more RPG books would do, is give us Kevin's voice. And not just Kevin's. You saw Bill Coffin in there, Wayne Burrow. There are other voices in there. But give us these designer notes, these Q&A sections, and behind-the-scenes advice on campaign structure and beyond. I mean, those are excellent. And they do ultimately make both books worth the purchase. So whether you run Palladium, D&D, Absolute Power, or something else, Kevin's philosophy can make you a better game master, even the parts you disagree with. Really gets you to think about that game master craft. I do have one more small segment to finally answer Heathen Dog's question, but before I do that, what book do you like more? When it comes to purely game master material, what do you wish Palladium would update next? As always, share those thoughts in the comments. Finally, where do I land? I think that answer is clear. I'm sure it's pretty obvious to you at this point, right? The Heroes Unlimited Game Master Guide is a true Game Master Guide. I know the Rifts fanboys out there probably in chat right now are crying. I don't care. That book sucks compared to the Heroes Unlimited book. They're both good, but one is vastly superior to the other. Whether you like Rifts or not, I don't care. That Game Master Guide, when compared to the Heroes Unlimited book, sucks. As a book on its own, it's not a bad one. It still has good advice in there. It's just twice as big as it needs to be. Increase that font to the Heroes Unlimited side, remove some of the nonsense that doesn't need to be in there anymore, and then it's a good book. The Heroes Unlimited book is older and smaller, but it is far better in 2025. I said it before, I'll say it again. I think the Heroes Unlimited book is one of the best, Heroes Unlimited Game Master Guide, let me put it out, the GM's Guide, is one of the best books in the entire Palladium library, which says a lot considering it's a 1999 book. To be fair, the Rift's Game Master Guide has great ideas and advice, but overall it's a book out of its time. There's no zeitgeist for it anymore. It did its job in 2001, but in the age of Rift's Ultimate Edition, it desperately needs a modern revision that prioritizes GM use, not player material. Both books are good, but the Heroes Unlimited GMG is leaps and bounds better than the Rift's GMG. Now, what do you weirdos have to say about this?
All right, let's see here. Here we go. The Rifts Guide. I use it all the time for equipment and skills. And remember, the Rifts GMG was supposed to be twice as big, so big that they took the other half and published the Rifts Book of Magic. And there is the point that he was actually trying to make. A lot of the stuff, hundreds of pages in the Rifts Game Master's Guide, should have been in two different books. An updated equipment book and an updated magic book.
Yeah, I was calling it a companion book, something player-facing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, player-facing books, because all of this stuff is unnecessary in a Game Master Guide. It's just stuff the players can get. So make a book that they're going to buy. You don't want players buying a Game Master Guide. You don't want that. You can't stop them, but you don't want it. So that's the actual rub. That's the deal. And Kevin, something similar to the 2E AD&D DMG, where there's additional information for the DM to judge how spells work. That is stuff that should be in a Game Master's Guide.
That's in this one.
Yeah, which is in the Heroes Unlimited one, definitely, and a little bit in the Rifts Guide, right?
The thing is Rifts has grown. Not too big for its britches. It's grown. And that's the unfortunate thing for a book like this. If this book was just advice, pretty much like the Heroes Unlimited book was, yes, the Heroes Unlimited, this is why I called it out, if you remember, did have some equipment and so forth in there. But if this book was just adventure design ideas, great advice, basically, if this book was the Heroes Unlimited book in a Game Master Guide in a Rifts format, this book would still be useful today. I've seen some of the chat, but it's got equipment lists in there. I've got more equipment lists back here. The equipment list in this book is outdated. I have all the stuff back here. There are world books back here. And I'm not even the Rifts guy, and I have enough of that stuff. I have the Bionics with the Bionic source book, Scyscape, the Magic book. All that stuff needs to have its own reference.
Every game system has the same type of setup for they have core books, and then they have supplemental books.
Yep.
Okay, and each supplemental book has a theme. It has a purpose. Magic book, equipment book, lore book, GM guide. You really shouldn't mix up these things because it's going to start getting weird.
Right.
And that's apparently what happened with the Rifts book. They started mixing up genre, supplemental books into one thing, calling it something else. Over half that book, it sounds like. How many pages is the Rifts guide total?
300 something, but 175 pages alone in equipment.
Yeah, that's just equipment. And then if you're talking about the reprinted skill list, that's probably another 40 pages minimum. And then you're talking about the reprinted spells. That's another 40, 50 pages minimum.
I don't think it was spells. I think it was psionics.
Oh, psionics. That's another 40 pages minimum. So over half that book should have been Magic and Psionics supplemental book and equipment and vehicles supplemental book. Easy.
So I've seen a couple people post this type of comment, and I think this is a really good one. We'll just put it here. The GM specific stuff in the Rifts GMG would have been in the adventure guide. Yeah. So, and I've heard this before, where the adventure guide is really the Game Master Guide to some degree. I would, if I were to revise this book, that's what I would do. Have your equipment compendiums, your spell compendiums, your psychic compendiums, whatever, Scyscape, so on and so forth. Roll in this book with the Rifts Adventure Guide, and you have an amazing Game Master book. Fully agree with that.
Yep. And that's pretty much about it. Someone's talking about GURPS. We're not talking about GURPS. Poop on GURPS.
All right. So, okay. Well, with that, I guess we don't have any super chats or anything to put on the screen there. I do want to remind everybody that next Sunday, June 22nd, we'll be joined by Kevin Simbita and Sean Owen Robertson. We will talk about Rift's Promise of Power Reforged game on BackerKit, the Savage Phase World Kickstarter coming soon, and how to manage campaigns with 20 or more players. You know what? I'm going to use the Rift's Game Master Guide to help me form some of my questions, or guide some of them, because it's in there. So please help us spread the word. If you enjoyed today's breakdown, hit like, subscribe, and share. Even if you didn't, you know it was still good content. Share the video with your game group. And until next time, I hope everybody has... Oh, we didn't put the subscribe thing up. So now I have to delay a little more because I need it up for about 20 seconds. Yeah, please share with folks out there. Sharing is caring. And with YouTube, I've shown it on the members only live streams, absolutely shadow banning us. If not directly, indirectly. My click-through rate is good. The view time's good. Everything about my YouTube numbers are great, except for the actual views, which is weird, which means that they're not showing it to folks. So if you can share this video with folks that you think might be considering one of these two books, or you just want to show how great the Heroes Unlimited Game Master Guide is, please share that with your friends. And yes, I hope each and every one of you has a wonderful